This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to order Jamie Glazov's new critically acclaimed jihadist psychopath, how he is charming, seducing, and devouring us. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, Obamagate, the coup attempt against Trump, is unveiled. Treasonous investigators and their instigator become the investigated. With us this evening, Daniel Greenfield, a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center and the editor and writer of the blog The Point at Front Page Magazine. Daniel, an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
As always, the honor is mine.
Thank you, Daniel. And some of that title and teaser come from your stellar and brilliant article at Front Page Magazine on this issue on Obamagate, published very recently at Front Page Magazine. Daniel, President Trump recently just tweeted one word, Obamagate, exclamation mark. Why did he do that?
Because it's about time that the scandal, which has consumed the country, which has torn us apart, which has pitted neighbor against neighbor, which has really prevented a duly elected president from being able to function, is traced back to its source, the previous administration, and not just the previous administration, but the guy at the top of that administration, Barack Hussein Obama. That's the bottom line.
We know that Lisa Page, as you've written about, formerly of the FBI, texted, quote, POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. What did that mean?
It's pretty clear that Barack Obama was keeping a close watch on their so-called investigation. Now, this investigation was a very obvious pretext for targeting people around Trump and with an aim of eventually getting to Trump, as we've seen in these past years. The Obama administration, the people there have claimed that this was investigation by the intelligence community, that it was not political, and yet everything we've seen about it, including the text from Lisa Page to her lover Peter Strzok, makes it very clear that this was political, was entirely and wholly political. It was about people in the White House, from Obama on down, keep very close track of the investigation. The latest information, the declassified unmasking report, appears to show that even Joe Biden appeared to be interested in unmasking the identity of General Flynn, and this eavesdropping. So people at the highest echelons, including Obama, including Biden, were very much interested in the so-called investigation. They were interested in bringing down Trump and people around him under this pretext that there was this Russian plot, this Russian conspiracy, which they, as a matter of fact, knew was complete nonsense.
Absolutely. And look, they thought they had the deal all set. Hillary was going to win. She was going to cover up all the dirty stuff and the secrets, everything. Trump comes in. Big problem for them on a million levels. Let's just talk about one level here, and you've touched on it in your work, something that really interests me that I've studied for a long time. Stephen Coughlin has documented it in his book, Catastrophic Failure. Beyond reasonable doubt, because of Obama enabled and oversaw the penetration of the White House by the Muslim Brotherhood. Beyond reasonable doubt. This is just all documented. General Flynn is very brave on this issue. Very brave about standing up to Islamic supremacists, to jihad, all of that stuff. And he was finding out a lot and wanted to do a lot of house cleaning in terms of bringing the American government back on the American side. I think that this was a huge threat to Obama and what they were afraid that Flynn knew and what he was going to do. Am I on the right track here, Daniel?
I think that's a very strong issue that needs to be considered, especially considering in the light of the H.R. McMaster era, because when you don't have Flynn, you bring in H.R. McMaster. This is the guy who was a straight-up apologist for Islamists, and this is the guy who filled the National Security Council with apologists for Islamists. So it's the old who benefits. Now, I mean, there are all sorts of things going on behind the scenes, but when you look at this directly who benefits scenario, H.R. McMaster comes in, you have the same old status quo, the same old apologists for Islamists, for Hamas, which is an arm of the Muslim Brotherhood, for Islamists across the region, for terrorist Islamists across the region. And these are the people who are actually working behind the scenes. They're forcing out people that Flynn had brought in. So there's this kind of larger war. I mean, we've spent a lot of time looking at Flynn, but we also need to look at this in terms of forces, as you've suggested. Stephen Coughlin, by the way, has done amazing work in this regard. We need to think in terms of two armies, two shadowy armies clashing by night within the National Security Council. Now, because of the classification, because of the media cover-ups, we've seen only a piece of it, but this is very much a big part of the puzzle because there were very much two approaches. The Obama approach, and this is unfortunately not unique to the Obama administration, was just to sweep everything under the rug to support the so-called aspirations for democracy of the Islamists, and the approach was actually turn back the clock and go after them. And this is really a big part of why much of what needed to be done has not been done, and why we actually haven't gone back to the counterterrorism era where we actually went after terrorists instead of embedding them within our system. And just another piece of that particular puzzle, when you remember Obama's CVE, countering violent extremism, instead of actually fighting terrorism, we'd be bringing in Islamists and they'd be working with us to counter the violent types of, note of course the violent parts. Stephen Coughlin, again, has done a lot of work writing about that. Now, a leftover piece of that failed CV program is now being used by the Democrats to go after Trump.
Okay, so Daniel, overall, Obamagate, what we have here is the President of the United States more or less empowering and nudging, pushing the intelligence agencies to conduct a coup against the incoming president, right?
Definitely, and it's a very strange and surreal situation because normally the White House is supposed to have very limited involvement in this kind of situation. It's supposed to go through the Justice Department, yet, as mentioned in the article, Acting Attorney General Sally Yates said that she did not know anything about the investigation into Flynn and the plan to actually trap him until she heard it from Obama himself, which is really shocking because when you have the Attorney General hearing about a so-called criminal counterintelligence matter from the President of the United States, Comey was not doing this through her. The so-called intelligence community of CNN and MSNBC and assorted media consultants was not doing it through her. I'm not saying that Sally Yates was a good person, but the fact that the White House was directly plugged into the so-called intelligence community shows what this was. This was very much a coup.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. Under a minute before we go, please, briefly. Is this bigger than Watergate? But like you said, the main star is not going to be Trump. It's going to be Obama.
It's 1,000 times bigger than Watergate because the important thing to understand about the difference between this and Watergate was an outsourced. It was supposedly people involved with the White House doing something outside the scope of the White House. This is the White House enlisting various intelligence agencies, enlisting the NSA in going after political opponents, and this was not a one-time event. We have evidence that the Obama administration was eavesdropping on members of Congress and then other political opponents going back years. So this is 1,000 times bigger than Watergate. The full scope of this should be enough to fundamentally transform everything we think about America.
Wow. And you know, what a blessing to see treasonous investigators investigated. Daniel Greenfield, thank you for all your work, for your truth-telling and your bravery.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on and for the work you do.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining the Glazov Gang this evening. We'll see you soon. Good night.